Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Raw Faith. Real quick plug, repping the new merch. It's coming out, and when you're listening to this, it should be coming out in about a week or two. It's going to be coming out around the third week of June, somewhere in that range. So, right now, we're waiting on some sick hats to get in. We got t-shirts, got hoodies. So if you haven't snagged some of that yet, go check it out. I'm sure there's a bunch of posts coming out about it. But today, in this episode, we're going to be talking about God, of course, but in terms of relationships, we were actually on a Twitter space last night. I mean, this just shows how raw we're getting today. We're on Twitter space literally last night, and Paden and I just both agreed that the biggest way we've seen God work is through relationships. And I was like, man, if we are both in agreement here, I'm sure there's millions of others of Christians in agreement here. And I'm sure there's a ton of people who need to, understand what that looks like and just how him and I have seen God work to further their faith and grow their faith. So I'm excited to talk about that. And I think that Elevate is the pinnacle of that, of faith and relationships colliding. I think you won't find anything better than Elevate. So you're going to hear a lot of stories from the community and just how we've grown it over the last, I guess, year together and a year prior to that by myself. Just how people and relationships have fit together to form this thing. So, Peter, what's up, brother?
What up? What up? Yeah, dude. This is gonna be a great topic. I know for me personally, like I am a guy who tries to do things on his own. Like I hate to um, try to get other people involved. I'm not great at communication, and so I'd rather just handle things on my own. But especially like I just visited Costa Rica, which is kind of my why I was away from Raw Faith for a couple weeks. Past episodes. Um, But I realized there, like I tried to do a lot of things on my own, make plans, things of that nature, just the smallest life examples. And they just didn't run as smoothly as they would if I were with other people, in particular, other Christians like Todd, one of the members in the community, and other people from the church. And it's just crazy how things just kind of fall into place, especially when you're with other believers, how plans just work out better. And you can see God's hand in just the smallest of life examples, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what a great place to start. Like, let's start with Todd. That's a
Yeah,
relationship you can absolutely see God working in, and you having just went and visited his ministry down in Costa Rica, and got down on your hands and knees and started serving. Um, Real quick backstory on Todd, and then I'll let P Dog go into his time in Costa Rica with Todd. But we met Todd back in 2021, I believe, at a networking conference, and Todd was down in Costa Rica. He had just went down, I believe. Maybe he had been there for a little bit. I'm not sure, but he was just telling us how they were planting a church and how they were just spreading the word of God down there. And I told him about the mission with Elevate and everything we had going on. So he decided he wanted to jump in, get involved in Elevate, support the community that we had rolling. And just, I guess that, that was 2021. So over the last 3 years, like we've just kind of kept in touch and seen, Todd's just giving us check-ins and updates of here's what's happening in Costa Rica. Look at this beautiful beach. Look at this water. Look at these views. Look at how God is working. Look at how we're serving. Look at what we're building. Just stuff
yeah,
like that. And me, Austin, and Peyton have had just the opportunity to receive those updates and connect with him, and it's been really cool to see. And eventually Peyton just built up enough of the urge where he was like, man, I got to get down there. So talk to us about what gave you that push to get down there, and then what did you experience, through Todd and what he's building down there?
yeah. So we were actually supposed to host an event down there this year. Um, got pushed back to next year, but through communication with Todd, I just felt this pull to start doing mission work. I love to travel, and of course, I love the Lord. So combining those two is essentially mission work. Being on
Yeah.
mission and taking trips for it. Um, and so me and Todd got on another call, and I told him we're gonna have to push the event back, and then just lightly pitched him on the idea of like me coming down. and he was all for it. Like, he was pumped. He was like, dude, I'm so glad that you mentioned this. We actually have a mission house. Would love for you to come down, things like that. And I just the small inclination that I had inside of me to pitch it to him, and then all of a sudden, a couple months later, I'm down there. I was like, I had no idea that God was working on his heart to get men like myself down to Costa Rica to do mission work. So after that call, prayed on it. Both of us did, and we felt like it was what God had in store for both of us. So a few months later, flew down to Costa Rica for a very good price too. I felt like that was just a very small yes from God. So I looked at flights in the time that we were going to be in Orlando, me and you, Matt, when we were visiting. It was like the cheapest of flights out of like the 3-month range. I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely going down. So after I got the yes from God, went down there, and God was working in some incredible ways. Got to share my testimony to the youth of Paco in their church. Got to feed the homeless, and just experience the culture and the poverty that they had there, and the struggle, the suffering that some of the community was going through. And it really opened my eyes to, I guess, number one, just how blessed we are here in America.
Yeah.
Number two, just the passion to keep serving.
I'm excited to I know we're gonna just further our relationship with Todd and just continue this partnership. I would even call it of there's so much more to come with that relationship of just going down there and serving and helping them with whatever they're building. I mean, I see so much more in the works in years to come. If
100%.
we had more, just transparently, if we had more capacity, more resources, like we would have definitely been down there doing some more stuff, mission oriented. But we're still laying the foundation of our mission and what we're doing. So building up our foundation and our resources to be able to branch out and do amazing things for others like that. So it's
Absolutely.
incredible, dude. Incredible to see Todd down there putting in that work. But what would you say is just like your biggest takeaway from that experience?
I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the main takeaways that keeps coming back to me is like, they spoke Spanish down there. And growing up in the U.S., we didn't really prioritize learning a second language. I'm learning that that's normal in other cultures
Dude,
now.
yes. I was about to say that. I'm so glad you said that. I've connected
Yeah,
with more people internationally in the last 2 weeks than I have in a long time. They all know 2 languages minimum.
it's crazy. Yeah, so I feel dumb when I go to these other countries, but so go down there and they all speak Spanish. I probably know a collective of 20 words. But we're feeding the homeless. We're ministering to these people who are going through these really hard times, just living in these small, just trash houses, basically.
Mm.
And even though I can't communicate with them, I'm handing them a Bible verse. I've got a smile on my face, and just when you come filled with the Holy Spirit, the love of Jesus radiates through you, and that transcends
Yeah.
any language barrier that's in the world.
Yeah. Amen, man. It's funny you say that. Like, when you have the Holy Spirit radiating from you, you feel it. It is felt by others around you. And I actually just got off the phone with my grandpa, who's a pastor. You've had the privilege of meeting him over lunch, breaking bread, Taco
Yeah.
Bell. I guess we call that bread, but we'll leave it at that. So I just called him not too long ago, and I asked him if he would marry Tony and I for our wedding.
Oh man.
And man, talk about just a guy with joy in his heart, just joy filled. Like he's so joyful, and he radiates that. He's constantly laughing, constantly cracking jokes, like constantly smiling. Like you'll never see a down moment when you're hanging out with them. And I credit that, and I know he would credit it to just God, the Holy Spirit, inside of him and just radiating through. So yeah, I mean, in the name of relationships, I guess there's another one to tack on of just seeing God work, of seeing my grandpa, who's a pastor of 40, 50 years now, just radiate so much joy. And I know he hasn't always been like that as well. Like my dad has talked about, his upbringing, he's pretty hard on him as kids. Like he also had 8 kids. My dad is one of 8, which is, I can't imagine how you even survive as a parent. Kudos to them. But um, so my dad has expressed like he hasn't always been that way. This is wisdom from God that he has developed to understand that, man, life is short, life is limited. It might as well be full of joy. So
Amen.
100%, people can feel that energy, that kindness that's just radiating through. Especially, everyone wants to talk about today's landscape of the world. Of oh, the world's on the decline. Like the world is in the dumps. The world's going to nothing. Like awesome. The darker the night, the brighter the light. Like it's just more of an opportunity to step up and set yourself apart and represent our God in the best way possible by shining that light to other people and building these relationships that we're talking about. So yeah,
100%. Yeah, it
I don't
seems like, I don't know, it may just be me, but it seems like the world is gradually getting more negative. And I just see that as an opportunity to stick out. We're called to be lights of the world.
yeah,
And when you come with that joy and just the Holy Spirit radiating through you, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
100%, dude. It's funny. I was thinking about this yesterday while I was in the gym. There was this guy. He was dancing and singing. His headphones in. He was working out. Like he wasn't singing loud, but he was mouthing words and he was just kind of jumping around in between sets of his workout, stuff like that. And I'll be honest, like I looked at this guy with eyes of judgment. Like right out of the gate, my first thought was, what is that guy doing? And then I kind of caught myself. I was like, why am I trying to like judge this guy's joy? Like, why am I trying to limit this
Mm,
guy's joy? Like, there's times where I'm in the gym with my hands up because I'm listening to some worship music. Like, why am I trying to just like put this guy's joy in a box and limit it? And I just kind of checked myself, checked my heart in that moment, which I think is something we constantly have to do. Antonio and I just came off of talking about the condition of the heart in a podcast episode before this one. And it was just talking about that constant battle. And that was one for me, like where I just checked my heart. Like, why did I just have that thought? That's not a good thought, kind of combated
right.
that thought. And so, but yeah, with what you're saying, like even that, like if the world is going to continue to get more negative, like I think it's because of the insecurity that's in this world today. Like, if you think about a hurt animal, they're in their most insecure, vulnerable state. What do? They try to go on as much offense as they can
Yeah.
to keep you from them. If you try to get close to a hurt animal, how vicious are they going to act? They're going to growl, they're going to foam, they're going to show teeth, whatever the animals, do,
Mm,
specific type of animal. It's because they're insecure. They're hurt. They're trying to hide that wound because they know they're in a vulnerable state. And I think you see that in today's world. I think you see a lot of insecure people who are in a vulnerable state because they don't have an identity in Christ. So what do? You lash out at others. You attack others because if I can beat you down first before you come try to knock on my vulnerable door, then I win, right? Like if I can
mm,
attack your beliefs and who you are, if I can judge you before you judge me, I'll just beat you to the punch because I'm so scared of
yeah.
that punch coming towards me. So, I think that's what we're seeing. Not to get into politics or today's world, but I've used that hurt animal reference a couple times in just my one-on-one calls and connected with Elevate members, and I've loved it because I think it's so true as to what's happening.
No, that's good. That is a really eye opening point of truth there. And I don't think it's even getting into politics, man. I think that's just human nature. And it's great to know, especially from like the Christian side of it. Because, like, from what you said, it sounds like when people are hurting others, it's out of insecurity, it's out of fear. So that
Yeah,
almost makes that changes things. It's like it gives me a sort of grace for them. It makes me feel bad, honestly. And so then you can, I guess, love them easier.
yeah. I mean, yeah, hurt people, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear that kind of cheesy cliche saying, but it's just the truth. And I think that you experience that when you're trying to go against status quo, when you're trying to go against the traditional path. It's people want the place of security and comfort, and if someone's going to step out of that, they don't like it because then it challenges their security and their comfort. I mean, we can look at the Israelites enslaved in Egypt, like they're enslaved for 400 plus years. they're wandering through the wilderness. Moses is up on Mount Sinai speaking with God. He doesn't come down in time. Their faith was in Moses, not God. So when Moses was gone, what do we do? Well, let's turn back and let's go back to slavery. Let's go back to comfort. Let's go back to what we know. It might suck, but at least we can blame Egypt for our slavery and not ourselves. At least we can point the finger somewhere else. So let's go back to what's comfortable. And I mean, that's what we do in this world today. Like we default back to what's comfortable. And imagine if some Israelites would have escaped and they knew about it. Imagine if we had social media back then. You see your boy who was in slavery with you, he escapes and he's living his best life outside of slavery, and you saw him post on Instagram. Imagine how much you just want to judge and attack and just be on the offense against him. Imagine how much you'd slander him behind his back. It's like, because he broke free, he went against the grain.
Sure.
He had to do what you weren't willing to do. So,
Totally.
yeah, quick Exodus side tangent there.
Yeah, bro. Biblical knowledge is going up.
Yeah, that's actually been one that's been pretty relevant in a lot of conversations recently, because it's all about stepping into that new identity, I think, and putting your faith in God. I mean, they were so quick to lose their faith. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, like they literally took their jewelry off and made an idol to worship the idol, that the idol was going to take them out of slavery.
That's insane, bro.
Because they lost Moses' leadership, because they thought he was never coming back down from the mountain.
That is insane. One that stuck out to me kind of on that same wavelength, I guess, is went through one of the chapters in Samuel at church this past week.
Yeah.
And essentially Israel had no king. And they were supposed to, all the other cultures in the world, countries, they had kings. And Israel was supposed to stick out because God was their king.
Yeah.
But they just got so distracted by the normality and all the other cultures, what the standard was. And they're like, okay, we want a king to govern us too, to put us in slavery, to send us to war, etc. And Samuel was like pleading with God, similar to what Moses was. But God had to tell Samuel to give him what they wanted. It's just so crazy to think that they draw security from the things of this world when they could have stuck out.
Yeah, 100%. But something I was thinking about the other day, and I actually shared this on a Bible study I think you were on, but I got it from Cliff. Everybody's seen Cliff in his apologetics arc on Reels or Shorts or TikToks or whatever. The kind of the old guy that argues on college campuses. Everyone just said, "Oh yeah, that guy." I was listening to a podcast he was on with Logan Paul, and I mean, good podcast. I recommend listening to it. Like, Logan asked some challenging questions, and Cliff and his son are both pastors, obviously very knowledgeable, and they go back and forth with a very healthy debate. Like, there was nobody elevated any tonality or anything like that, so it was extremely healthy to watch. But Cliff had said, like, if God didn't exist, we would all be programmed by inputs like computers. And I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. I don't know his exact words here, but if God didn't exist, we wouldn't have this intuition, these morals. We wouldn't really know right from wrong. We would just be programmed by our environment, just like an animal, just like a computer. Like, whatever input you put in, it will take that as good and it will run with it. But he was saying, if that was the case, if God wasn't real, how would anyone ever stand out? Like, we would all be, I think, as I just expanded upon this thought, I think just evolution over time, if that was the case, we would all be very, very, very similar.
Yeah, like a hive mind.
Yeah, it'd be like, 100%. It'd be like, I mean, if we want to talk about what the government's trying to do to us, it's pretty much exactly what's going on. But we're not here to talk politics. But if you think about it, we could just use you and I as an example. Like, how would you have dropped out of college when, what percentage of the kids that you were friends with or in your high school went to college? Probably 80+%, 90%. For me, same deal. Like, every single person that I was friends with went to college. I don't even think I could name one person that was a close friend of mine that didn't go to college. So I would have been had that input. My parents told me to go to college. My brother went to college. People in my family went to college. Like I would have had that input of an overwhelming input of this is what I should do. I should go do that. That's the best route to take because everyone else is taking it. It had the most social proof in my life. Now you could say, well, I was consuming podcasts from Ed Milet and Eric Thomas and these guys who are going against the traditional route. But
Right.
one, how did they go against the route then? And two, I still had way more inputs to go the other way than I did to choose entrepreneurship. You just always will. Entrepreneurship is for the few. So I just thought that it was extremely cool to understand and consider, especially when you think about people of the Bible who are in communication with God, and God is tasking them with something that they're unsure of, they're uncertain about. It doesn't make sense on paper. Um,
Mm.
and they're going back and forth with God, like, God, like, I don't know about this. Like, give me a sign, show me. Like Moses, like, can I really, like, like, am I really going to lead these people out of Egypt? Like, when he was in such a high authority of Egypt, like, the things that don't make sense on paper and the things that don't make sense to our environment, I truly believe, are from God, for God, and it's cool to see. It's cool to see, and those are the things that have the impact as well. Like, I mean, look at your testimony with your brother. Like, we'll get into that relationship. That'll apply big time here. Like, environment would tell you you're supposed to be sad about that. Like, environment would tell you that nothing good could come from someone's death. That's what this world will tell you. Like, that person died and they're gone. Like, why would anything good come from the death of a 4-year-old? Well, because it has God involved.
Mm.
God allows us to go against those inputs that are around us to be like, okay, I lost my brother. One, he's going to an eternal place with freaking all the raw honey he could ever imagine. I just ate some raw honey with my breakfast, so it's banging. But
It's very random.
it was funny. Well, Antonio was talking about flowing milk and honey flowing yesterday.
Oh,
A
nice.
place with milk and honey flowing. So that's what made me think of that when I was thinking about heaven. There was honey,
Gotcha.
but and you guys have been able to use that testimony for nothing but good, and will continue to use it for nothing but good. When this world will tell you that's not how it goes.
100%. 100%. But it's crazy. I know you were talking about inputs being like programmed from that, but to kind of tie us back in, the whole time when you were thinking that, like particularly me dropping out, like, the reason I was able to do that is because God used community. God used people like yourself. God used people like, Joey. I looked at Joey. He dropped out of college too. People, who are dropped out and taking this different route. And I was able to kind of be empowered by that to go against the grain.
Yeah, and I think if we really zoom out and look at it, look at all the people who empowers you, like all believers, like these people that
Mm.
you were surrounding yourself with. Joey, big believer. Myself, of course. Like, obviously, you were a part of Elevate, and that was a big stride in dropping out. Was just seeing young guys take the untraditional routes. Uh, and everyone in there like putting their faith in God. So it's just cool to see that as well. Like, and that's why I was talking to a guy who just joined Elevate, Josh, yesterday, and he was saying, I can't imagine. We were kind of both agreeing with this. I can't imagine being an entrepreneur and not having faith. Like, it
Mm.
would just be way too hard to do that, to not put our trust and put the plans in God's hands if we were trying to do it ourselves. He's like, I can't imagine trying to do that. And then we kind of looked at entrepreneurs who don't have their faith in God. Your Elon Musk, your Alex Hormozy, stuff like that. Not to judge others, it's not what we're called here to do, but it's like, are they setting the example for how we want to live? We both agreed, no. It's like they're pretty much just robots. If we really want to get down to it, like Elon with many failed relationships, stuff like that. Like, again, not trying to judge him or his relationships, nor do I even know the guy personally. So, I don't know. But outside looking in, it's seemingly not the life I want to live. And same thing with Hormozy. It seems like everything's just a transaction with that guy. Again, I don't know him. I look up to him to give business value. I think he provides a lot of value, but It's like the people who are even having success in the entrepreneurial space outside of God are not even the people we look up to want to live their kind of life. Then I look up to a guy like Ed Milet. He's constantly talking about God, and he's constantly talking about his relationships with his family as well, and his podcasts and stuff. Again, don't know him. He could be, for all I know, cheating on his wife and beating his kids behind closed doors. I don't know. But it's like just outside looking in, it just seems that way. And I think you could tally up countless more examples that would give you enough social proof to understand that faith plus anything equals a much better outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like what I see, especially on Twitter, like the entrepreneurs who don't have faith, kind of what you were talking about earlier, hurt people hurt people. It's like entrepreneurs without security and faith, without a secure foundation, they're just constantly projecting. They're trying to project, how much money they're making, what cars they drive, and they're drawing so much security from that, thinking that that's such a firm foundation. It's in
Yeah.
reality not. It's making you look small.
So I tweeted the other day. I said dudes will post Stripe screenshots of their bank account and then go jerk off to porn.
Oh my gosh, man.
Which sometimes I go back and forth on those tweets. I'll be honest. Like, should I? I don't think I was called here to judge or anything like that. And I'm not above any of these guys too. Like I've had my fair share of struggles with all these sins and everything else, and I still do. But I do think we're called to convict. I do believe that, and I think that the people who follow me are trying to build their relationship with God. And I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who follow me or are in my network. And I think that if that would have appealed to someone, I think it would have convicted somebody. They may have been mad at me, but I think it would have convicted them to
Yeah,
repent and turn away. So that is my thought process of putting a tweet out like that for anybody who's like, wow, you shouldn't be doing that. But it's tough, man. It's tough.
for sure. Yeah, it'll do one of two things: take somebody off or plant a seed. Maybe
Yeah.
both.
And I can't imagine, like, we're getting way off topic here, but I can't imagine, like, people who have much more of a microscope on them. Like your Hermosis, your Musks, your celebrities, like your LeBron Jameses, like any all across the board. Like, can't imagine that kind of life where you just constantly everything you do is just amplified. Like it's there's no middle ground when you're have that level of attention on you. It's all in or all out. Either what you said is ruthlessly has a wake, I feel like, or what you said is incredible. And it's constantly like half the world thinks the other one and half the world thinks the other. So it's just man, yeah. But let's not go down that path. Let's recalibrate here, rope it back in, talking about relationships and seeing God work. Even though I think we were doing that throughout this, but for you, like dropping out of college, being empowered by guys around you, elevate guys. Ever since then, like what is the biggest way you've seen God work through relationships in your life since dropping out in January of 2023? Like, because you've been a part of Elevate, that's when you came on to the business and you've helped me grow it, now for over a year, which is wild to say. Um, Absolutely wild to say. I guess, like, how have you seen God work through that, through building community?
Probably even start, man. I mean, grown as a person, you know, exponentially. I couldn't imagine if I was still in the same place that I was before I dropped out. Um, so much growth has occurred personally. That situation, from even the when I was deciding to drop out to constantly today, it's made me kind of forced me to rely on God and rely on my faith, because it feels like unknown waters. Like I feel like I was diving into the deep end, and I'm trying to grab onto anything strong and anything that's firm to have as my foundation. And so forced me into the corner, which was God. And so I've just been clinging to Him ever since, and that's really grown my relationship with Him. Certainly grown my relationship with guys like yourself, guys of higher caliber who are doing the same thing. So just a stronger network, and then also just forced me to do other things, take leaps that I may not have done before, such as go serve in Costa Rica.
Yeah. It's cool to consider the domino effect with these things. Like, you do something that like dropping out of college uh, to become an entrepreneur with Elevate, like, and then it dominoes into just bigger and bigger and bigger. We'll call it leaps of faith, right? Like they're leaps of
Mm-hmm.
faith. Of course, they're going to grow your faith. So it's just unimaginable to understand what's going to happen in 20 years as we continue to just take these leaps of faith. Like, especially in entrepreneurship as a whole, like like you're saying, like it's unknown. Like pretty much every week is like a,
Yeah,
I won't say every day because I feel like you get your like calibration for the week and you're like grinding on something, and then the next week it's like, all right, what's next? So
yeah,
every day, every week, whatever you want to call it, it feels like the unknown every single time. Like and I think any entrepreneur who's being honest will tell you that. Will tell you like, hey, entrepreneurship is just simply figuring it out. And you can go listen to the best of the best. You can go listen to the Andy Frisella, the Ed Milet's. I love Nick Bear's story as well, one that I've been recently putting myself onto. Like they're literally craziest stories of big mistakes and just day in and day out trying to just figure it out, and
yep,
doing everything they can to just scratch and claw and survive while they figure it out. And that's exactly what we're doing. Like every single day, just scratching and clawing to figure it out, and just to advance and further our mission in building the kingdom and building Elevate. Like so, my whole point with that is that's what like a purpose filled life looks like. Like I really believe that. Like you should be looking back. Peyton Hodges back in 2022, who was in college, should be unrecognizable if we sat them down side by side and had conversations one on one with each. You shouldn't even be like, no, it's a whole new man. It's a whole new, especially during these younger years of just immense amount of growth. I can't speak for the later years in life. We'll see, but I'd imagine it's one and the same. But
mm-hmm.
because it's not like wisdom has a graph that slows down. I guess like God's wisdom is infinite. We'll never be able to truly like hit a percentage of it. But in these things, like the domino effect of what I'm saying, like you take the leap to drop out of college, you become unrecognizable year after year after year, but it still all feels like that same domino, right? Like dropping out of college was still a massive thing. When you're making $100 million deals in 30 years, it's going to be like, oh my god, it's going to be the same level of anxiety and fear, but you've just grown, you've adapted, your ability to um, your stress threshold has adapted so much that $1 million deals, $100 million deals, whatever, in 30 years. I'm just thinking about a significant amount of money on the line, um, as an example. But maybe big family decisions when you're a father, like you got to make a crunch time decision, a crucial decision that is
Yep,
going to impact your entire family. Like whatever it might be down the road, doesn't have to be money. It's still going to feel like that decision you made to drop out of college, but
yeah,
your faith has just grown to where you just keep putting it to the test. You keep enduring. It's just like lifting weights. When I go do 15-pound curls or 50-pound curls today, it felt like when I first started doing 5-pound curls, 10-pound curls when I was 11 years old. Like it's the same thing, but you see how much you're just growing. I think it's just kind of crazy to understand and think about that, but it has to, you got to start. Like you have to start. And I think that's
mm,
where people they never do, honestly. I think they never start and they never really understand. It's just like wanting to jump straight to the six pack. Well, that's not how faith works. It's a day in and day out decision to carry your cross and follow God. Same thing with lifting. Like if you want to jump straight to being able to bench 300 pounds, you better start with the barbell.
yeah. Absolutely, I like that tangent you went down there. Is it good? Just start. Just start solving one problem at a time. Just start taking one leap of faith at a time. Um, I think it's cool how you can see God work through it, because he's with you in it. Like you're sharing that load with him, and then he's also going to steer the boat in certain directions that you may not understand.
Yeah.
Like for us last year, you know, we were all in on fitness coaching. First part of the year, Q1 essentially, and then felt that call to switch it and essentially go away from it. Just found the whole community on faith, that make that be the main thing, right? On paper, that doesn't make sense, but felt God steering the boat in that direction, so you take the leap of faith. And looking back, man, that seems like that was the right decision, 1,000-fold, right?
Yeah. even though sometimes it looks like Egypt, looks like a comfort to go back to. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, just add more like context to the picture, I guess. Like Elevate was initially founded on fitness for the first year. We had 100 members join in the first year. It was founded on fitness primarily because that was the only value I had to provide to the world. And 2023 we head in and we start focusing on faith. We start focusing on God. Obviously, fitness still plays a role. Your health doesn't go anywhere when you start focusing on what was that about?
Relationships again, just thinking about Bo
Oh yeah, yeah.
too.
I'll share it. So
Please.
yeah, we're all in on fitness. 2023. My man Bo, who's been a member of Elevate. I mean, day one. I'll just say probably week one, but we'll say day one. Um, Heading into 2023, he's like, "Hey man, I think we should start a Bible study in this community." And this was January 2023, heading into the new year, and I'm like, you know what? I think so too. At this time, I'm gearing up to move down to Florida. We start this Bible study in Elevate. Peyton's about to drop out of college. I moved down to Florida, and I just go all in on my relationship with God. Being with Joey and Gabe was huge. I started studying the Bible way more, started reading the Bible, really consistently for the first time in my life. But yeah, Bo was like the crack, the crack of exposure to faith inside of Elevate. I mean, a relationship that God just blessed us with from day one of Elevate to where now, over 2 years later, he's still riding every single Friday morning, leading that Bible study, no questions asked. Like, it doesn't matter if 5 people show up, if 105 people show up. Bo's going to be there bringing joy, bringing wisdom, bringing himself in the man that God placed him here to be, no matter what. That's something Antonio actually told me yesterday, which was really cool to hear. He was like, dude, I don't care if one person shows up or if 300 people show up. He's like, we're riding. Like, I'm gonna be sharing the word of God. And I was like, let's go. Like, fire me up. So
For sure.
2 relationships there to just tack that on. But then we start going all in on faith in 2023. Bo opening that crack and God really just splitting it wide open after that. And I remember Mitch maybe in like February was like, what if you stop fitness coaching and just went all in on the brand? Because I was having a conversation with him and he was like, we're talking about just how I had the passion of building a brand. I didn't building a business and building a brand feel like 2 different things in my mind. They always have. And I feel like during that time I was geared towards trying to build a business. I was all about the income and trying to make money and, all into Hormozy's content and great stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but I had lost my passion for building the brand. I was producing content just for metrics. I wasn't producing content because it was coming from my heart. But he was like, what if you just quit fitness coaching and just went all in on the brand? And I was like, no way. Month later, we quit fitness coaching. I literally said no way, like 30 days prior. It's crazy. It's a testament to how fast things move in entrepreneurship. Less than 30 days, I go from, oh, no way. Because at the time, we're making $15K a month from fitness coaching. It's like, that's all we got. Like, I can't let this go. Like, we can't let go of this money that's being made. Like, no way. And then less than 30 days later, it's like, screw this, man. I'm going all in. We're going all in at that point. That's when you were hitting full
Totally.
stride around March.
Yeah, I remember
So
that phone call. You sharing that question, that challenge for Mitch. We went all in on it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think how fast God works too, if you allow it.
yeah, that's man. I shared that yesterday though. That's been something that's been tough for me. Like, because I try to move quick. Like I was sharing how God plants seeds, and Paden knows. Like I will try to have an idea executed on in the same day. To the point where he's like, we need to develop this thing. Like this is a half hitched idea, and we're trying to coming off half cocked, trying to completely change the entire business model off of some idea from God. When I get these seeds planted, and sometimes they're meant to be taken immediate action, but sometimes God is like, here's this seed, let it develop. It may come in 5 years down the road. And I've
Mm.
experienced that so much. I get these ideas, and they come in either immediate, they come in months, they come in years. Like I don't know what it is with God's timing, but it's always perfect when it does come in. I can tell you that. But I don't know why He gives it to me early if they're not ready to rip. But with what you're saying, if you'll just let God work, man, I've had to really uh, be patient and try to get that one-on-one time with God to understand, like, is this something we need to act upon immediately, or is this something that is coming soon, I guess.
It's really good. Works both ways, speeding up and slowing down.
Yeah, and I mean those seeds, look again there, relationship. Mitch, what if you just drop fitness coaching? Thank God for a brother who is putting his one-on-one time in with God to grow his faith and his relationship, because if I didn't have his wisdom speaking into my life, I guarantee we wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast today. But another relationship that he's planted, I can't even tell you. I mean, he's the reason I started down the self-development path and started lifting in the first place, joined the gym that I joined, like really the leader through all of it. So like relationships as a whole, man, it's crazy to consider the seeds have always been planted. Bo planting that seed of Bible study, Mitch planting the
Mm.
seed of dropping fitness coaching, like just seeds from everywhere. And man, consider the seeds we have now of nearly 200 members of a community who are all trying to grow their relationship with God. Like we have so many seeds that are planting right now, being watered, that are going to plant so many more seeds to come.
Dude, we see it compounding too. Like random guys, like a guy like Isaac Hainkamp from Canada. Hasn't been too involved in the community, but gets some of his friends in from Canada. One of them being a musician, Greg Ryder, new member, joined 2.5 weeks ago. Ended up writing us a song, and then is now coming to our event in 2 days.
2 days.
And yeah, and is going to be singing and leading worship for us at that event.
Yeah.
Which is
And
incredible.
not to air out Greg's stuff on this podcast, Greg, if you're listening to this, man, I love you. And you're going to thank me for this after we're done with Montana, because this doesn't release till after Montana. So you'll be smiling listening to this. But like, I truly believe, I was telling Tony this, and I was even talking to Mitch and Claire. I was telling him about Greg, and I was telling him about, God just, one, us being that relationship for Greg, I think, because Greg was telling me like his whole identity was caught up in country music, and it's his Egypt. That was his slavery of drinking and being in bars and sleeping with women. Like that was his slavery that he knew he needed to get out of. Now he's wandering in the wilderness. He's trying to find his thing,
Mm,
and I'm telling you, bro, this is so relevant. Exodus is so relevant. It's crazy. Um,
yeah.
he's wandering in the wilderness trying to find his thing, and he knows what his thing is. He knows what he needs to do. But I think we all need community to empower us, just like you did. You knew you
Yep.
needed to drop out of college, but you needed that push from people who had done it, from people who just are carrying their cross to say, you could pick yours up too. And Greg right now, he knows it. We all know it. But this is going to be his empowerment, man. A big piece of empowering him to step into worship music and using his gift of being a musician to glorify God and to make disciples. And that's so apparent to see. And it's so awesome when you've seen God work so much through transformation of people, you start to see it in real time. And
Mm.
there's like no piece of gratitude more than that, of being able to be like, that is so obvious to see how God is working right there. I think this is something I talked to Austin about a lot with his season of singleness. Probably the biggest struggle that guy's facing, right now. Like he's been talking about this one for a while. I mean, him and I were both relating to it, last year, talking about it back and forth. The season of singleness, like it's a hard thing when you envision a life. It's really hard because you vision a future with a family. So when you don't have the seeds planted of that family, you think God obviously does, but you think you don't. It's hard to envision your future. And I've realized through talking with a lot of men and coaching a lot of men, if you can't see your future, you feel very lost. You feel
Yeah,
very insecure if you can't see a path ahead. And I think that's where Austin has struggled with in the past. Obviously, he's grown a ton through that. But for him, I'm just talking to him. I'm like, dude, it's so easy to see how God is refining you right now to lead that family that you want, to lead that woman that you want. Like it's going to be, he's going to
mm.
crush as a husband, as a father, because of this season right now, because of how much growth and how much he's being sharpened in the wilderness right now. He's growing his faith right now, having to put it in God, or it's back to slavery, to hookups, dating apps, and Pornhub.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was just thinking like, we can't see the future. There is someone who can, um, God, and He's not necessarily going to reveal it all to us, but He will reveal some of it to us. And I was thinking like, how? And then you just said it, like God spoke through you to him to kind of give him the encouragement to keep going, and giving him a little piece of that vision, which is just really cool.
Yeah, and I think too, like vision comes from God. Like when you feel it doesn't come in a clear picture. I won't say that, but the pictures get developed. The pieces, it's a
Yep.
puzzle. It's a puzzle. I'll say that. Like you have this puzzle laid out. You can kind of see the box, but the pieces are still scattered everywhere. You maybe you're missing some pieces that you're gonna find in the couch cushions one day at random. Like that's kind of how it works. Like for me,
Mhm.
like I watched these two guys when I was like 14 years old, Max Tuning, Christian Guzman. If somebody knows who they are, amazing. But two guys who have built incredible brands. Christian, founder and CEO of Alphalete, and then Max, he was an apparel company, and now he is the founder of a company called Sour Strips, sour candy, because he was just passionate about sour candy, which is really cool. But they're both big YouTubers, and they're documenting the whole thing. And I consumed for so long when I was young, and I just had this nudge of like, I gotta build a brand. I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't have anything that said I had any value to provide to the world, but I had this nudge of I got to build a brand. And God just plants these two guys on YouTube in my life perfectly. Mitch and I build our relationship, both watching these guys, consuming from these guys as well. Like, and then next thing you know, Peyton Hodges joins Elevate random day in 2022. I don't even know where he comes from. He like retweets one of my tweets or something. I end up shooting him a DM, just a random DM, out of the blue, just to connect with him, sell him some fitness coaching, and he ends up joining Elevate from this DM. And then next thing you know, here we are. Like, I didn't know you were coming into the picture, but it's
It's
like you're
crazy.
just a big piece of that puzzle that God said, here's the couch cushion you just searched under. Here it is. Like,
Hmm.
just a random tweet one day. Like, it's just
Yeah,
God maneuvering all these pieces. And that, quite literally in itself, dude, like, we should have just made this episode my testimony, because that is my testimony. Like, these pieces have came together in such a uh, divine way that it's just too divine to ignore or call coincidence anymore.
oh, for sure. It just makes you admit like there's got to be a creator to it. This is schemed out way too perfectly for it to work. Um,
100%.
yeah, it's cool for me for you to say that and me to look back like before I knew you guys, like I was reading business books, reading entrepreneur autobiographies, things like that. So he was prepping both of our hearts for this season right here.
And we were in a season where we had no idea. We both felt the pull. We both were like, there's something that I'm called to do. I don't know what it is. God, we're probably praying. You know, I wasn't praying during my early times of feeling the pull. I didn't have that relationship with God yet, but you know, it still happens to this day. You know, you're praying, God, like what am I doing? Where are we going? Like, give me some signs. Give me some clues here. Like, give me some
Yeah,
pieces of this puzzle. But you got to just keep going, man. That's what faith is. Like, you just continue to go, and on paper, it does not make sense. You just put your faith in God and you keep moving. Jesus, on paper, in his life, did not make sense to him to go die on that cross. You know, we hear him talking to God near the end of his life, like, God, do I have to go endure this suffering? In that moment, Jesus is saying, I
mm,
have to die? Like, do I
yeah,
have to go do this? And but he's saying, but if it's in your will, like let it be done. You know, he says that in the scriptures. So it's like same thing for us. Like, do I have to be sitting here questioning? Do I have to be sitting here, you know, losing my brother and enduring and struggling and being refined? Like, do I have to go through this? But if it's
mm,
in your will, you know, let it be done. Because there's no better will, there's no better plan. And, you know, we get to just look back and reap the fruits of that. But again, I think it goes back to you got to start. Like, you have to start seeking to find.
absolutely, 100%. That's really well said.
Man, it's been fun. Just ripping off the hip. It's a fun time for
Yeah,
me. I love it. I'm sure I've probably spoke like 80, 90% of this podcast. So apologize for that, but
per usual.
I just get passionate, man. Just get passionate, dude. Oh man. Well, let's actually there was one more thing I want to talk about
Okay.
as well. It was relationships. It's on the path. Um it was talking about us of like when we first connected as well before you joined Elevate, anything like that. Or no, you joined, but when we were first building our relationship, before you joined on the business side, is what I'm saying. You were a member of the community, but you hadn't come on to the business.
Hmm.
You told me that you had a passion for traveling as well. Like you
Yeah.
wanted to be an entrepreneur and you wanted to travel. Like those were really like the two things you had in your mind. It was like I want to do something with my life, business wise, because these guys are doing cool stuff, and I want to do cool stuff,
Yep.
and I want to travel. You know, now look today, like we're 2 days heading to Montana to bring 10 men together to empower them to carry their cross. Like, but again, like, and I wouldn't be able to, you know, I had this vision of bringing people together, of building this brand, and the events have just been the staple of our brand. Like, they are such a
Mm,
staple of our authority and our credibility in the online space to our members. Like, events are such a big deal when you're able to pull off cool stuff like snowboarding and ATVs and climbing mountains and things that we're doing. You know, it brings such an edge to a brand. It brings such an authority to a brand. But it's like I wouldn't be able to pull these things off without you. And I mean, same thing. Like you wouldn't have been able to have this community to step into and lead events if it wasn't for me starting. So it's just relationships. Like it's just such a mutually beneficial thing that God uses. So it's cool
yep.
to see not only, you know, are you a piece of my puzzle, I'm a piece of your puzzle. And like you're saying, it's such a testament to a creator, a divine creator that we cannot even understand beyond imagination, because we can look at a community of 200 dudes who are so intertwined and impacting each other in ways that you can't even imagine, and it's so mutually beneficial to each other that they're building each other's puzzles, one, without even really knowing, uh, and just two, like it's perfect. Like it's such,
Mm.
it's, you know, puzzle pieces. Mitch and Claire got this puzzle on their table, dude, that they were working on last time I was over there, man, and it was just like hard. It was Harry Potter, and the whole thing was like dark green. Like those are the worst. Basically, you're looking at the cutout of the puzzle piece to fit it in. You're not looking at the
Oh,
picture
dude.
anymore. That's how like just solid the color was. It's like you're just looking to try to fit piece to piece,
Holy cow.
and these are the most intricate puzzle pieces ever designed as us as people, and God is just like easy, easy, just putting this puzzle
Yeah.
together, man. So that was one thing I want to touch on was our just events, and you had this passion to travel, and then here we are traveling, arguably sometimes more than we want, and we're in an unappreciative state. I'll be honest, but traveling all the time, doing amazing things. I can't even say that, man. So grateful to travel and just lead other dudes, bring dudes together. I mean, Io is an hour from me right now, flying in from London
Yeah,
to come to our event. Gonna go pick him up tomorrow. Road tripping, camping in Wyoming on our way to Montana, which is gonna be sweet. So
let's go.
yeah,
Heck yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see how creative God got with these two puzzle pieces being you and I. A kid from small town Indiana and a kid from small town Alabama, one with a vision to build community, the other to with the vision to travel and share that with other people, share those experiences. And then here we are hosting events all around the world.
yeah.
So cool to
Here I
see.
am, and that's why when people are like, "Hey Matt, what are we doing in Montana?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just going along for the ride, man." No, that's not true, but not true entirely. But we've definitely been able to fit together in our own lane. It's been really cool to see. I was telling Mitch the other day actually about some of the stuff you do on the back end, and I was like, man, I'd blow my brains out if I had to do that stuff. Literally, I don't even like. Tony's kind of getting on to me recently because like I had a passport appointment I needed scheduled. I just didn't schedule it for weeks because I just don't like stuff like that. Like I don't know why, but like I don't know if anyone does really, but like just like calling them and setting up an appointment, like getting all the documents together, like doing stuff like that. Just, but it's stuff you do like all the time, for us. Like,
Yeah,
and I literally told her, I was like, she was kind of upset because she ended up doing it for me, but I was like, it makes me want to just, like, I just don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to do it. I was like, it drains me, drains my energy. I was like, it sucks.
yeah,
And when you're at a point, in life and in business, like right now where I feel like my energy is so vital, especially like the creative energy is so vital. I've been trying to figure out how to work my schedule so badly to just capitalize on it, but it's like impossible. It feels like, dude,
yeah. You've been trying that though.
it feels impossible, bro, because you never know when inspiration's gonna hit. That's why they talk about just an open schedule. Like Fazio
Mhm.
says, like he doesn't have any calls because when something hits, that's why I want to execute on an idea in a day. It's like when it hits, you just get this just passion, this unbelievable amount of energy to go at something until it's done. And if you have to delay it, it sucks. It's the worst. You lose
Yeah,
the passion and it goes away. That's why
for
when I
sure.
write my emails, like there's some days where I'm just like, these are ripping. There's other days where I'm like, I'm not even gonna write an email today. And then some days I'll not write one, and then at 2 p.m. it'll just hit me, and I'm like, I'm writing an email today,
For
and I
sure.
just start going. So yeah, but that was a tangent there. So, all right, let's wrap this up. We've been all over the place. If you guys listen to this one, man, we appreciate you guys. You guys are just riding. We came in raw when to talk about relationships. Maybe we'll get more refined with this topic because I do think it's an insanely valuable topic to bring to the table of being able to see God work and see God work through other people and it's a testament to community as well. It's a testament to not being unequally yoked to the people around you. And iron sharpens iron. Like when you have people who are following God and carrying their cross, it will impact you in ways you cannot imagine. You will see collaborations and influence and opportunities arise that you never would have imagined because God is involved in both parties. And that's just what God does, things you cannot imagine. So, let's wrap it up though. Again, new merch. Probably a week or two around the third week of June. We're hoping we got some hats coming in that we're waiting on. So as soon as those hit, we're gonna be ripping them live. But hopefully, if you follow on Twitter, you've been seeing some pics of this new merch. This is the most comfortable sweatshirt I've ever worn in my life. Haven't taken it off since we've got it. As you probably saw in the last episode, which I recorded yesterday, I'm wearing the hoodie back to back days. So yeah, we're going to Montana tomorrow. I leave tomorrow.
Mm, let's go. It's going
So
down. You'll still be wearing that same hoodie too.
probably, yeah. I don't know. I got this. Tawny's mom actually cleans out her closet, gives me this Colorado like buffaloes, like the college 3/4 zip, like retro, like super old. Like she's
That's
had
cool.
it for probably like 20 years. She was just gonna throw it away. She sets it out. And she's like, maybe Matt wants it. I was like, heck yeah. So I've been rocking that too. It's pretty cool. It's pretty comfy. So especially on the road trips, I've been rocking it. So
That's
may
cool.
may rock that. But yeah. All right. I'll stop rambling. So cool. Raw Faith episode whatever. No idea. Much love. See you guys in the next one.